Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researchers Ability. Today we have Dr. Bhavana Gupta with us. The initial introduction of Dr. Bhavana. She has done her bachelor's in chemistry from BBS Purvanchal University, master's in chemistry from Banaras Hindu University, and PhD from IIT BHU. Also visited Japan during her PhD as a cultural exchange program student. She was at Kyushu Institute of Technology, Japan. So after that, she got some of the most reputable postdoctoral scholarship. And to start with, the first one was Boston Postdoctoral Fellowship, where she worked at Ben Gurion University of Negev, Israel. Then got IDEX Postdoc Fellowship, where she worked at Bordeaux University, France. Then Marie Curie Profound Fellowship, where she worked as an assistant professor at the Institute of Physical Chemistry in Poland. Then also served as distinguished professor or distinguished foreign professor at Henan University in China. Currently, she is associate professor in chemistry department at UPES Dehradun, and also got Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship to work at Heidelberg, Germany. With this brief introduction, we'll say thank you so much, Dr. Bhavna, for taking time out for this conversation.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. And it's my pleasure to be a part of your podcast, Research Celebrity. Thank you very much. So I'm
Thank
ready
you for the kind words.
for
Thank
the
you for your
discussion.
kind words. We start all these conversations that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher.
Okay, so my journey started after my master's. I got one public sector job, but in between the joining time, I decided to uh, start my PhD degree. And there I met my PhD supervisor, and he was very supportive and very motivating person. So there I got to know that being a researcher, I can have a global international networking also, either being a student or being a faculty. And this feature motivated me a lot that okay, I should pursue research as my career to get international networking to bring something, I mean, bridging something special between two nations. So I started my journey with this motivation from that point of time and continue until now. And as you have said that I am associate professor in UPES and there I got chance for global networking. Therefore, I apply for Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship for experienced researcher and I'm pursuing right now this fellowship.
Wonderful. We will talk about the different stages. Let's start with the PhD. Like when you were planning that, okay, now I want to do PhD, what were the major thoughts going on in your head and based on your priorities at that time that you were able to say that, okay, now I'm connected to PhD, let's do PhD.
Okay, so motivation to do PhD is becoming a professor. And I was motivated from Marie Curie a lot because I learned from her life journey that she thought anything personal life linked with studies and research. So I always uh, uh, learn from her life lessons that okay, because I have been studious from the beginning. So I thought, okay, I can pursue my PhD to do something novel in my studies as well as in research.
See, about this part, that getting the motivation from Dr. Marie Curie, okay, and then
Mm-hmm.
having awarded at one of the fellowship during your lifetime. So you said that the academic journey started with that. That okay, now I want to do PhD because of your motivation. Okay, then during this time when you said that you already showed your commitment to the research part of the PhD, what were the thoughts about selecting the institutes or the universities that where will you do that?
Okay. So I was studied in Banaras. So my first choice was to stay in Banaras because I belongs to a cultured family. I mean, traditional family. They don't want to leave me and go away from that city. So I choose Banaras to pursue my PhD. That was the first motivation. And second is my supervisor, because in PhD, it is a long-term commitment. So we have to work with a person who is supportive and always encouraging. So that is the second part which helped me to pursue PhD in a uh, positive manner, because many people I have seen they drop out from PhD because of the bad circumstances. So for me, the most positive part is my PhD mentor, and of course, I stay with my family in Banaras. So these two parts help me to pursue my PhD very smoothly.
So having these priorities clear, we discuss these things in all of our conversations for our audience, that having that clarity, that what are your priorities and your strengths, what you already know, having said that, when you mentioned about family and very supportive mentor to successful or get your PhD and also enjoy the, all that travel when you are doing those, when you are hitting those bumpy rides, when you experience challenges of research. So if you have a supporting mentor that can actually make it very easy and look smoother, but we all know about the mental stress, the pressure it brings when you're doing PhD. And you correctly said about the dropouts, and it's not only in India, but on a universal scale, that there are data which suggests that there are students who drops out starting from the first year of PhD to fifth year, sometimes even sixth year. They drop out
Yes, yes,
because
yes.
of different
Mm-hmm.
reasons. Based on your experience, and if you would like to share with our audience, that how they should ensure this, what are the more protective way to ensure that should they do a PhD or
Okay. So in my opinion, first we have to estimate ourselves correctly. I mean, our capacity. We have to judge what exactly our capacity. We neither underestimate nor overestimate. So if we estimate ourselves correctly, then we can end up in the right lab with the right supervisor in the right environment. Because many supervisors and many laboratories highly demanding, which is beyond your capability. So we have to learn from others' failure. I mean, we have to get data from different people, which is, I mean, those are having a similar kind of expertise and so on. So collecting the data will help us a lot, because there is just saying that intelligent people learn from others' failures, average learn from their own failure, and idiot neither learn from others' experience, not nor from their own experience. So, in my opinion, first we should estimate our own capability correctly, and then we should have some data from other person to estimate where exactly we are lying. So, this is the best strategy, in my opinion, to end up at the right place.
I think that's a great way. So now let's say the student has done their self-assessment, already had this conversation with their peers that how the group is, and now they find everything fine. They join the lab, and as we all know, that research has a lot of failures. Failures are like
Yes.
inevitable in research. Either it is theoretical or experimental at different stages. So how to cope up with that stress or the mental to keep your mental health well? How to navigate those
Mental health
situations.
is really a very serious problem right now. The first thing we have to be not very sensitive, because sensitivity is mostly correlated with the mental health. We have to keep patience, because many times some people react just for a transient period. Maybe next day everything will settle. So we have to keep patience and be less sensitive than, I mean, sensitization should be less. Yeah, these are the two key point.
So, when it comes to either failed experiments or, rejected manuscripts, because that is a different kind
Mhm.
of stress, because for a
Mhm.
PhD student, they have to publish so that they can graduate from the degree and then get awarded. based on your experience and whatever you have experienced globally, what you can suggest that what works best for them, or they should come up with a strategy to deal with those?
Okay. Yeah, this is very critical question, in fact, because many students I have seen they are struggling in publishing paper, but most of the cases I have seen they are not choosing the right problems. Most of the times they are struggling to solve the problem which is not accurately estimated. So I would suggest everyone think before starting anything. Don't rush. Spend some time logical thinking, cognitive thinking. That is a key requirement right now because many places I have seen students are working without thinking and just randomly trying this and that, and things are not going to the right end. So before starting anything, think wisely, get feedback from other people as well correctly, and then begin your research. I mean, lab work and so on. So that is the key requirement, in my opinion.
And I think this also circle back, like even before committing to yourself to PhD or research, if you have done your self-assessment that worked
Yes,
well enough, then you know that either you belong or not. This brings us
yes, yes,
to the
yes.
next question of imposter syndrome. And it's like in anywhere you go, either in academia or in industry, wherever the researchers are working, they have this sense of questioning themselves, correct? That do I really belong here? Either it is for PhD, for postdoc, when even when they get the faculty positions, they are like everyone here is more smart than me. So how to deal with that imposter syndrome being as a researcher?
I don't think it happens everywhere. For example, if I consider myself, if I join somewhere, some place which is very top rank institution, and where people coming from again, I mean degree holder from top institution, then of course I will feel inferior. But if I end up the place where my peers are having more or less same kind of credentials, then I don't think people will feel such kind of inferiority complex. So we again, the main point is estimate yourself correctly and end up at the right position. If you are not at the right position, then all kind of syndrome and inferiority complex will rise. If you end up at the right place based on your capability, then I don't think any kind of complex or inferiority things and all will come into the place. Yeah.
That's a
So
very that's very valid point.
people do wrong calculation about their capability. Sometimes they overestimate, sometimes underestimate. So both are very bad situation. Underestimation is also very bad. Many times I have seen many of my friends who are really, really talented, but they also always think because of their comfort zone, okay, I want to stay only here and so on. And later on they realize some of their peer end up in very good position, very high rank institution, and then they realize, oh no, I did some wrong thing while choosing the right place and so on. So this all happens because of the wrong estimations.
Wrong explanation. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a wonderful way. And also keeping yourself on a track is then that's why when we talk about knowing your place as well as your preferences, that what are the choices you made. And you might have
Yes,
multiple offers in hand. But this brings us to another important topic of opportunities. So now what we are seeing in global research market, that
mm-hmm.
the number of vacancies are way less than the number of candidates, which also put a kind of selective pressure on the researchers. So sometimes they might or might not be able to, in that stage where you are saying, like, you have to pick your applications very wisely. That do you really want to do that? You see, what we have seen, like, people just apply for it and somehow they happen to get it clear and then join. And that's when, as you said, that then they realize that I don't belong here. This is not what I really want to do. Either it is the type of job they are doing or the responsibilities they have. So how, like what, in your thoughts, how they can kind of avoid themselves that misery of being in the wrong position?
Okay. Yeah, unemployment is a very, very challenging situation right now. Okay, so to hit the job, we have to make a lot of trial and error. First of all, we have to apply many places, and out of many places, one place got successful. Yeah, this happens in many cases. Even in my case, also it happens in the similar way. Okay, so if anything happened after joining, how to overcome that that kind of, I mean, if trauma comes and how to overcome that. So your question is if we end up in a bad
Mhm.
situation after joining the position, how to overcome that? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So we have to see both kind of people in our surrounding who are more successful and some are less successful. So to get motivation, we have to see people who are below standard, I mean, less credibility than us, so that we can see, okay, we are not that bad. And to rise up, we have to see some people who are having better capabilities and so on to get motivation for the growth. So we have to see both kind of population around us so that we can feel ourselves balanced, not very stressful all the time. Okay, I end up in the wrong place because absolute absolute best does not exist at all. So there is a chance for sure of unsatisfaction up to a certain extent. Of course, not 100%, but you will lie somewhere in between 0 to 100. So if it happens, then we have to see both kind of people, higher capability and low capability, and balance ourselves.
I think that's said like having that reality check that there are people up on the ladder, there are people who are still working onto that. So you have something to hold upon and just try to make the most out of that. And that is one thing. I think the quality of researchers that they flourish wherever they are, whatever they have, utilize those, create new opportunities and every
Yes,
single
yes,
challenge,
yes.
and then achieve something
Absolutely.
which people have not never thought of. That's what makes
Not
us
that
all.
up. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Now let's talk about the different postdoctoral fellowships. So after getting your PhD awarded, let's say some minutes for the international exchange program at Japan. Your experience at Japan, how was that, and that how that helped you in your like advanced scholarships, postdoctoral scholarships, which you achieved later on.
Okay. So yeah, Japan Fellowship Genesis program is very old story, and time has been changed a lot from that time to now. But at that time, when I was PhD student and visited Japan, our exposure is not only for laboratory, also for cultural program. And when you go first time to the abroad, we face a lot of cultural shocks because the culture of India and even scientific culture or social culture, everything is entirely different from the culture which I see in Japan. So in the beginning, really, it was a difficult time for me because that time mobile was not existing. I cannot see the maps and all. So it's not very easy to explore the city even because nobody knows English very well. If I lost somewhere, I cannot ask my address, location, and so on. So now times had changed a lot. So that time it was a bit difficult, but people are very helpful over there. So they help me. I mean, uh, in the laboratory, every foreign student is associated with one Japanese student for laboratory work and one for outside laboratory work, help for the outside laboratory work. So in that sense, everything went smooth, but I cannot explore smoothly everything alone, which now it is possible. So in my opinion, we should explore abroad as early as possible so that we can adopt the culture perfectly. And from the first day itself, we have to set our mind what exactly we want to do in abroad. We want to settle there, or we want to just go there and come back. That part has to be very clear in our mind, because if we are in fickle mind that uh, we can stay, cannot stay, then things become more difficult. So we have to be very clear what exactly we are going to do after traveling to the uh, international lab. And if plan is clear, then I think execution is also feasible.
I think that is very important part. Again, now when we see that there are researchers who have spent years and years outside India. They want to come back to India, but because, as you mentioned, that they were not very clear in their first instinct, so now it brings
Yes, yes.
another national, like what we say, another challenge of coming them back home. Although now there are different fellowships which are available for the people who want to come back or not. But when, like you currently chose to be in UPES, okay, but still having all those experiences, how those experiences help for you to become a better researchers. Let's talk about step by step. So the first one which you got, the Bluestein postdoctoral scholarship, when you worked in Israel, you already had an experience of Japan now. How did that go?
Japan, I was during my PhD. So as I
Yes.
told you at that time, many gadgets and mobiles was not existing. So culturally, I could not explore much. But when I went Israel second time after my PhD, uh, I was mentally prepared to go abroad. I know what kind of adaptation I have to make, because in Japan that was my first travel, but that teach me a lot how to gel with the international culture. And that teaching we have to teach well before time to the student, because it is so hard. A student going outside and they get cultural shock and so many different kind of shocks, and it take time to get for them to get gel with those kind of differences. So Japan travel teach me a lot, and that helped me to adjust very easily in Israel culture. And
After
and
like
after, yes.
after Israel, then came France, then came
Then
Poland,
France, yes,
then
yes, yes.
China, all of those countries. So, based on your personal experience and hearing from the peers, how or what you can suggest to our audience that they can try or they can prepare themselves to experience the least amount of cultural shock, because science doesn't change. Okay, there might be the logistics changes that in one country, if you want to do something, it might take months or even years, whereas in some other developed countries it is faster and you can get that work done in a week or a month. So
Yes, 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 true.
scientific basic remains the same. Processing
Mm-hmm.
logistics might change. But when we talk
Yeah.
about cultural experiences, which is outside the lab, how they can prepare themselves so that they can reduce this to the minimum.
Yeah. So I would suggest to start, I mean, begin with traveling inside India first. So if you start traveling within India, I mean, from one state to another state, you will learn so many differences, because before traveling, we have different mindset. We think that, okay, this part of India is something like that, but that is not true. When you travel, you get to know the reality. So, in my opinion, first we should start traveling nearby places and then interstate, and then plan to travel abroad, because perception change a lot when you travel.
The traveling is very important part of it for sure. Even for some people, it's the number of hours of flight. It's as
Yeah,
simple as
yeah.
that. The 3 is
True, true,
fine, the
true.
13 is not. So again, then
Yes,
you
yes,
can
yes.
plan accordingly for your future moves. So
Yes.
the reasons when after all this glorified career before joining UPES, what were the thoughts which you brought back to India?
Uh-huh. Okay, so when I came back to India, first thought I have to make a bilateral. research centers in India, and I want to join. First preference was IIT for sure. I tried. Uh, Eventually, it was not work out, and then uh, I applying private university also, and fortunately, I got opportunity over here. And my vision to establish lab not only in my university, but also at my home as well, so that
Oh,
I
wow.
can, yeah, I can teach student while by showing the demonstration of the experiment as much as possible. So this is my vision I bring back to India, that yeah, I want to do skill-based learning with the students. So,
So
and
keeping this
bilateral establishment.
in bilateral, keeping this idea and intent at core that you want to give back to society, you want to help the future generation of students, no matter what they want to do. But having that skill-based learning is so important, and now people talk about everywhere. So, what are the things now as an associate professor, now when you are mentoring the PhD students, what are the things which you look in a student when they're coming for intern?
So I look in my PhD student, most important point is cognitive thinking. So before starting anything, discuss wisely the research problem, why we are doing this. If this part is clear, then I don't think doing experiment and validating that problem, solving that problem is difficult. So in my opinion, any research foundation is uh, discovering the real research problem according to the resource available, according to the capabilities, and according to the time frame, limitation of the time. So if we keep these 3 points in mind and think wisely what kind of research problem we should pursue, then more than half your research is done. So this is the most critical part I would like to see in my PhD student, and I want to discuss very wisely this kind of point with my student. And I want to give invest most of the time in this section of the research, finding the real and feasible research problem, not the problem which is not feasible, but it looks very demanding, but not feasible, that also does not work out. So this part I look into my PhD student.
That's very important. Having those clear, established, or expectations from each, like what you want from them, what they want from you. And as you said, as a mentor, that is important that what they are thinking is feasible. Sometimes it's time feasible, sometimes it's about the infrastructure feasibility. There can be
Yeah,
different reasons for that. And having that clear conversation in early in the start of the PhD makes that journey enjoyable for both the mentor as well as the mentee. Agree. So
absolutely.
whoever is listening to this conversation, having those clear initial conversations with your PhD supervisors is very important so that if you are on the same page, both of you are on the same page, then it gets better for both of you. Because if you join a lab with different expectation, which your mentor is not aware of, and vice versa, then that's when we have seen or heard those stories where it ended up very bad, either drastically or quitting PhD is still not that bad, but we have heard stories, not
Yeah,
only in India but others, where things have been gone bad because none of the person involved, either the mentor or the mentee, established those ground rules or having clear expectations. And in other, like some universities in global, they do have actually a written document like what to start with the initial agreement for their PhD, and then they move on to that so that nobody deviates from there. And if there are deviations, then there are measures how to deal with that. That's a great point, Dr. Bhavna. Now coming back to the mentoring part of it, as you mentioned, that some of the students join, they look very enthusiastic, initial conversation is wonderful, and then you agree that, okay, now let's start working for your PhD. But as all we know research, there are so many uncertain ways. And then the life is also happening side by side, correct? It's not like mutually
Mm-hmm.
exclusive. Either the boy or the girl, some of them are planning either getting married during the life of their PhD or having the kids in there. There is a big shout out when now started people talking about women in STEM, women in science, women in research. What were your experiences which you would like to share with our audience? And then we'll say.
Okay, so your point is how to deal with the uh, uh, circumstances which is not unpredictable
Mhm.
circumstances if it comes, how to deal with it. So how I will deal with my PhD student if such kind of
Mhm.
situation comes.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, we have to be supportive if such kind of circumstances coming into their life,
Mhm.
because everything can be handled if we are positive with our thoughts. Only problem comes when we are not positive with our thoughts. If we do things in a right manner, everything can be handled without any hassle. So
Um,
I always been supportive, but if I feel that person is not taking the circumstances positively, then yeah, I have to be strict and have to take some decision. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And I
so
think
I
that's the
have to
part
see
of
the
your mentorship.
aptitude.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly. That's
have
the
to
part
see.
of the mentorship.
Yeah, so if I,
That
I have to
sometimes
see
you
the
have to
aptitude,
discuss.
if aptitude, hmm
Yeah,
if
sometimes you have
aptitude
to
looks
discuss.
positive, yeah, I have
Yeah.
to be strict. So if aptitude is positive, then I have to be supportive, because this can happen with anyone, even with me also. And
Mhm.
everything can be handled if our attitude is positive. There is no problem. I mean, kids can be, I'm taking care along with your research is no problem. I don't think anything need lot of efforts. Only spontaneity is most important point, not over
Okay.
investment. Yeah, so
Mhm.
if we are working spontaneous every time, then everything is sustainable, everything can be work out. Yeah.
Having
So we
that
have to be
positive attitude
positive.
for sure helps. Yes, yes. In research, you need it more than anywhere else because of the challenges what we experience, of failures, of different troubleshooting challenges, whatnot all. But having that positive attitude for sure helps. And also, like we and in all of our researcher celebrities conversations, neither we try to tell a student to become a researcher, nor we say to quit research. What we say is do whatever makes you happy. If research happens to be that, then you already should be aware of what are the different kind of challenges it throws at you. And if you are not aware, but keeping that positive attitude that, okay, if I have this challenge, I can come up with something and I can troubleshoot it. That positivity helps in there also, for sure. Now coming back to the mentor-mentee program, and based on when you were a mentee, now you are a mentor, how this concept of work-life balance changes by switching the roles.
Okay. So when I was a student, I mean, I was doing PhD, I have very less responsibility. I mean, I have to do only research and uh, write papers according to uh, the instruction which is given by the supervisor. I don't see broad spectrum of the word. So my word is my PhD supervisor and my laptop. So this is the small word which I have to deal with. But now being a supervisor, I have to deal with editors, international community, my peers, of course, because at during the PhD time, we have limited PhD students surrounding. So we have just limited competitive environment, but now as a professor I have big spectrum of competition. And I have to deal many things other than research. I have to teach also, that also an additional responsibility. So in my opinion, responsibility increase when we change our role from student to supervisors. Yeah, so now
So it never gets better, correct? It always put on more and more and more and more
more
challenges
and more,
to keep
yes,
that
yes, yes.
work-life balance. To all the students who are listening to this conversation, try to be more sympathetic to your professors when they are teaching, and also with your mentors when you are approaching them with your either scientific problem or personal problem. Because this is another part where a mentor, if they are open that, okay, as Dr. Bhargava mentioned, that she's supportive of any other circumstances which are not expected, if something like that happen, she's very appreciative and supportive. But what about the mentee? When you are the student, you think your problem is the biggest in the life. But having that concept of soft heartedness or considerate nature, that your mentor is also a person. They are also human beings. They have way more than you think they have on their plate. So this also helps. This is something which we always try to tell to all our students and during these conversations, that both of them are colleagues at some point of time, because you are working towards the same research question, you are trying to answer it, and at some point of time the mentee excels the mentor because they are the person who are studying a concept for their thesis. So they know at some point of time they do know more than the mentor. And we have seen some wonderful stories from both the sides, where the mentor has accepted that and where the mentees also have accepted that. That when they joined the lab, nobody knew what they are going to work on. But both of them like the concept so much that they're like, okay, let's try to explore that. Although we always say that having that exploratory PhD has its own pros and cons. And the same
Mm-hmm.
goes for once you have the faculty position, you want to do fundamental research, the exploratory research, or translational research. Everything has its own pros and cons. So now the question comes, Dr. Bhavna, after spending so many years in research, what is one or couple of things which keep you going after all the challenges which you have experienced, either like scientifically, culturally, logistically, or because you have worked all around the world? What are few things which keep you going every day that, okay, I still want to do this again?
Okay. So in research, whatever we do, it belongs to you. If we publish paper, it belongs to you. If you do patent, it belongs to you. So this is the part which gives me always positive energy to stay in research, because I need not to work for somebody else. I mean, I will get the recognition for all my works. Not sometime 100%, but at least some part definitely I will get. Not like a corporate jobs where you have to work for a company and so on. But in research, whatever we do, it belongs to us. So that gives me positive
Great.
energy to stay in research. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for all the researchers, if you think that that is something which motivates you, for sure, we should be always doing whatever makes us happy without harming either the integrity or the scientific community, because this is something which we are seeing now these days, as you mentioned about either authorship or the patents. There is altogether
Mhm.
a different war or like in scientific community, either it is for plagiarism or ghost authorships or whatnot all.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about it, like how our next generation of researchers should train themselves?
So, uh, before starting a research career, I think everybody should go through research ethics carefully, research methodology, and research ethics. Both of the point has to be taught to every student very carefully. And since mentor are more having more experience than a student, because we cannot expect everything correct coming from the student side, because sometimes it may not be plagiarism, but it can be a technical error.
Mhm.
So we have to cross check everything, whatever coming from the student. We have to keep all the raw data, whatever coming from the student. So definitely we have to taught everything from the day first, but at the same time, mentor has to sync with the student efficiently, because whatever problems comes like plagiarism and all, it happens because the syncing does not happen properly between student and mentor. So it should be
Absolutely.
cross-checked, whatever coming from the student, and regular interaction between these two person, student and
And
mentor.
also, I believe that having that clear conversation what we started initially, that when the student goes to the mentor with the data without doing anything, it is just looking as it is, and then also the professor mentioning that okay, data is data. You should not change it because it does not follow your hypothesis or so. That's very important, as you mentioned, having that open-minded, and then that's when you are training the next generation. So wonderful. So with this, we'll say that now at the edge of the conversation, do you have a few words of wisdom for our next generation of researchers?
Okay, so for being a good researcher, I would suggest keep everything in your personal life in such a way which will accelerate your study and research. For example, if we see the life of Marie Curie, she left her own country and migrated to France while keeping in mind that she can pursue her study smoothly. So I would suggest to every researcher, whatever personal decision they takes, back of their mind, there should always a point which is associated with their studies and research. They should not take any decision in their personal life which is unsupportive for their career, research career. So
That's
this
a
is what.
wonderful. Yeah, that's a wonderful word of wisdom for sure. With this, we'll say to all the audience, if you want to write to Dr. Bhavana, you can write to her. If you want STEM for Society to put you in touch with our researchers and communities, we are there to support you. All we want is if research makes you happy, we are there. And uh, and we'll say thank you so much, Dr. Bhavana, for sharing your journey and experiences with the next generation.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was our pleasure having you. To all the audience, we'll say stay tuned for another episode of Researchers Summit.